How's it going, everybody? So today we'll be doing a continuation our um, of our multiplayer sessions template that we have here. So what we're gonna do today is actually set up a transition map. It's gonna be our lobby that the players will connect to after they join the game. So as you can see, we host a game, we go straight into it. If we join the session, we will also join straight into the session. Here in a second, maybe. So yeah, as you see, we just joined straight into the session. We don't want to actually join straight into the map that we're going to play. We want a sort of lobby. You can either do this one of two ways. You can have a lobby map, or you can just make the main screen a lobby, or have all players connect to the same server on the actual menu, and then the host start the game. But the way that we're going to be doing it is with an actual transition map. So there are a few things that were looked over in my last tutorial. On in the uh, in the main menu, whenever you actually click the join button, you don't want to destroy this because it'll destroy itself. So I had a remove from parent right here in between these two. You don't want that, just delete it. Whenever you click the join button, you actually want to tell the player controller that you're trying to join, which will then tell the server that you're going to join. And then whenever you actually find the session and join it, it'll destroy itself because you're switching player controllers and game modes. So that was just one thing that I looked over while I was doing the last tutorial. Getting started with the first thing we're gonna get started with is going to actually just be to get everything that we need already added, so that we don't have to add it in between pulling nodes. So the first thing we're gonna go ahead and get is a new widget. We're actually going to need a widget to show us what we can do in the lobby. So this is just going to be our widget blueprint lobby menu. We're also going to need a new player controller for the lobby itself. So just blueprint class and player controller, and this is just going to be our lobby controller. And we'll also need a new game mode. So we'll create a new game mode base, and this will be our lobby mode. Well, we'll just call this lobby menu, keep it short. And last but not least, we are going to need the actual transition map. So we will just create a new level. It'll be a blank level, and we'll name this the lobby. You can name it transition map, whatever you like, really. Lobby is just easy to remember because that's what we call the map in normal games. We'll also go ahead and set up another playable map that we can that way the host can pick between maps. So we're just going to duplicate this, and we're going to actually give these names. So we're just going to call this one dome for absolutely no reason. It's not going to have a dome, sorry. And we'll rename this first one to like crisis, just so we have an actual just so we have two maps that we can select through in the actual lobby. So we're going to jump straight into the lobby map and go and get it set up for people to actually connect to and at least be able to stand there. So just the few things you're going to need is a skylight and a sky sphere. I'm using, no, I'm not actually. I was going to say I was using Better Skies, but I'm not. And then you'll need a atmosphere, a sky atmosphere, and that'll just add the effects. You don't have to include this. If you just want a very simple map, just pull in a sky sphere and a skylight and you'll be okay. I'm going to pull in a plane, and we will scale this up because it's way smaller than it looks. Why isn't my skylight doing anything at all? Oh, I see. We'll do that really quick. Maybe really quick. Really? Alright. There we go. So now we can see in our lobby map, we're just going to need a few player starts. They can spawn over top of each other. It's not going to be an issue. It's not like it's going to be a deal breaker. If you want to have them not spawn over each other, just give them tags. So in our details panel with one of them selected, you'll just give it the tag of taken, and The other ones will just well, actually, you'd make it not taken, and then whenever somebody spawns on it, it would just get you would get all of them that's on the map, find out which one they spawned at, and set it to taken, so it doesn't get spawned there again. But we have these set up now. The lobby map is good to go. We'll just save it, and we'll head back over to the main menu, because now we need to go ahead and get our lobby menu widget set up. And the only thing it's gonna be very simple. We're just gonna get a vertical box, drag it down here, and we'll get 2 buttons. We'll get 2 buttons, or we'll put 3 buttons in there for a leave game button. That way you're not stuck in the lobby forever if you don't want to be. And I'm just going to give them all some padding just so they don't look terrible. So we can add some text to those, and those are just going to be leave game, and this one will be host options, and as well as start game. And we'll make this box a little bit bigger so they don't look so weird. One thing whenever you're creating widgets, make sure that you're using the resolution you want to, or else things will look very weird. So now that we have these going on, we're going to go ahead and set up the leave game button as well as the host options and start game. So we'll just do it on click, it's button 2. If you don't rename your buttons, then you just click on them and scroll all the way down to on click. I'm going to rename them really quick. So this is leave game, if I know how to type. And this button is host options, and this first button is start game. So we'll go ahead and set up the on clicks for these. Really. So for leave game, on click, it's just going to destroy session, and our player controller is going to just be ourselves. So get player controller, and on the on success, we're just going to open the level by name, and it's going to take us back to the entry map, which is main menu. This is going the open level by name is case sensitive, so make sure you get it correct. Other than that, that's all the leave game's gonna do. So we'll say leave game and destroy session, because if you don't destroy the session, you'll actually still stay connected. Well, at least it will think you're still connected. And we don't want that happening, because then you can't find another game. We're not going to need this event tick or this pre-construct. We'll just get that out of the way for now. For the host options button, it's actually going to create up a widget, and I forgot to create it. We will just go back to our widgets folder and create a new one, and this is going to be our host options. You can name this however you like. So now that we have a host options widget to display, we will drag off our onClick for host options and create the widget. This widget is going to be our newly created one, and the player controller is going to be the owning player. Off of this, we are going to add to viewport, and that'll be good there. I would do an is valid, but this is only ever going to be created whenever it's selected, and whenever you close it, it's always going to destroy itself. So there's not really any chances of it ever accidentally staying on screen or anything like that. This will just be called the host options widget, and we'll drag that up there. Start game is going to be a little bit different. So for start game, we'll still have it on clicked, but we're actually going to need to be able to talk to our player controller. So that's what the event construct is for. Off of it, we are just going to get our player controller. And off of the event construct, we are going to cast to our player controller, or our lobby controller, I should say, and we will just promote that to a variable and get a reference to it. That way we could talk to our player controller. Because in our player controller, which we'll go ahead and open since we've already created it, in our lobby controller, off of the we will do that in a second. In our lobby controller, we just create a custom event. This is going to be called client start game. And since our player controller is our client, we are then going to cast to, or we're going to need to talk to our game instance, which is going to be the server. So the lobby is going to tell the client to talk to the server. So off of your event begin play, you're going to need to cast to the game instance that we created, which is server info. So we will just get game instance, and then you'll cast to server info, or whatever you've called your server game instance. And then we will just create a reference. We'll create a reference right there. And now we're going to need to run a client side of start game. So we will go to our game instance, which is server info. And from the last tutorial, we had it set up to whenever you press the host session button, which is on the main menu, it tells the main menu player controller to tell the server to create an event session and then open the playable map. However, we don't want to open the playable map anymore. We are actually going to want to open the transition map, which is our lobby map. And it's going to still be on a listen server because that's what our server is going to be started on. So whenever you click on start game, we will use this reference to lobby controller. We'll use that reference to then run client start game, which is then going to go over here to the player controller, and this is going to run a server travel command. So in our server info, we're going to create a custom event, and this is going to say travel server. And the reason that we're doing it this way is because you can't, so we've already created the session, so we're in the session altogether. Now all we have to do is travel maps. So off of the travel server command, you will execute console command, and the console command is going to need appended. So we'll just type in append off of that, and this allows you to join two things together. So in the top, which is A, we'll type in server travel with a space at the end, and off of B, we actually need a variable. I've already created it. It's just going to be a string variable, and it's going to be our map name. So right there we have our map name. So whenever this is called, it's going to append server travel with a space, and then whatever map we select as the host. And that's going to execute the console command, which will travel our session and all the players in it to the new map. We're going to make sure that this is running on the server only and reliable. So now that we have that set up, we can go back into our lobby controller, and off of this server info reference, we can now run travel server. So now if you were to click start game, it will tell the player controller to tell the server to travel based on the map name. And now we actually need to get a way to select the map. And we also need to create the widget. So in our player controller, which is our lobby controller, after this has casted, we will create the widget. So we will create a widget. The widget is going to be our lobby menu, and the player controller is going to be our only player. Off of this, we do it as we do add to viewport, but before this, we need to do an is valid, because when somebody else joins your server, you don't want their player controller also creating you another instance of the lobby menu. So if off of this we do it is valid, if the creation of the lobby menu has already happened, then we are going to want to simply add it to the viewport over again. We're not going to want to create another one and have it overlaid on top of our existing one. So just cleaning it up here with reroute nodes. And that's going to look good. So we cast to get our server info in case the start game button has been pressed, and then we will check if our lobby menu widget has been created. If it has, we will add it to the viewport. If not, we will recreate it, or we'll create it for the first time and then add it to the viewport. So now that it's been added, it will display however we need the host button to actually we need the host options menu to actually display whenever we click this button. So it is displaying, but there's nothing populated in it yet. So we will jump over to that, and it's blank. We'll fix the resolution so it's not gross looking. And then we are just going to get a horizontal box, and it's going to be as big as the it's going to be as big as the entire screen, and we'll anchor it center. Then in this box we are going to put a blur so that you know that it is you want to put the horizontal box in the blur. That way we know that it's gonna be created for sure. So the background blur is going to be what is going to be as big as the screen, and then we will set the blur strength up a little. That way the background gets blurred, and you don't have to worry about anything being seen behind it. Just while you're trying to focus on setting up the lobby. So this horizontal box will be aligned to the full thing, and then we will put some text in it, and we will also put a vertical box underneath it. Actually, my bad. We'll put the vertical box to be filled. We will then put the text in that vertical box, and we will also need another vertical box for the actual map selection. So this this is where the map's going to be selected at, and over here it's just going to say host options in our text block. And at the end of the we're also going to have a close button over here as well. And whenever you select a map, it'll also close itself out. That way you're not worrying about having to select and close and all of that. So we have our host options now. We'll change this font up a little. And over here we are just going to have two buttons. And we'll put text above them and in them. And this text is going to say map selection. The buttons, will fill them and give them some padding on the top and bottom. And these are just going to represent our two maps. If you have multiple maps, you'll need multiple buttons. And if you want to put images instead of text, you would just drag the image in instead of a text block. However, for this will be Crisis, and this one is going to be Dome. And we'll rename the buttons so we don't get confused. because now we just need to add on clicks to these. So if you highlight it and put on clicked, whenever you click the button, the first thing you want to do is remove from parent. And then we are going to need to tell server info to set up, we're going to need to tell server info to change the map name so that it knows which map to travel to. So off of the event construct, we will get our game instance. We will cast to our server info, and we're just going to create a reference. Now that we have that reference, we can drag it out and we can set map name, which is that variable that we created earlier on. The map name for Crisis is just going to be Crisis, and this is case sensitive. And we would need to do the same thing for Dome, which I don't know how to spell. We will do the same thing for the Dome map button. So we'll do it on clicked. Whenever you click it, it removes from parent, which is going to remove the host options window entirely, and then we will also set map name. And this is just going to be Dome. So you'll have to do this for every map that you create with the buttons as well. It can take a long time, but it's worth it if that's what you were going for. So now if we were to click, what has happened there? Oh, tell you what, our lobby controller hasn't ever created the widget, has it? Oh yeah, it has. Let's do this afterwards. And we also need to set up our game mode. That is what I forgot to do. So in the map, you need to go to your lobby map, and you need to scroll up to the top of world settings and override the game mode to the lobby menu game mode. And then in our lobby menu game mode, we need to actually set the player controller to our lobby menu player controller. So right over here, you just set it to lobby controller, and now if we go to our main menu and we host the session, as you can see, we have spawn in the lobby, and if somebody joins us, they also spawn in the lobby with us. So we click host options. I did not set the anchors on those, but if we select Crisis, it'll close out of this, and then if we click start game, it'll transfer us to the Crisis map, just like so. I'm going to set the anchors on those, on the host options really quick. So the background blur needs to be anchored center, and everything else needs to be anchored accordingly. Maybe not. There we go. So if we click Dome, it'll take us to Dome. We haven't actually set up any differences in the map, so we'll do that really quick just so I can show you. On Crisis, we will just delete these two things, and we'll move the player start way over here. We'll get 2 player starts since I'm doing 2 people right now. So now whenever we actually select Crisis instead of Dome, Dome's just the default map. If I select Crisis and then start the game, and we give it a second for the server travel, as you see we spawn over here, and those are both missing, and that way we know that we've spawned into our second map that we have selected. And there was one thing, whenever the lobby menu creates the widget right here, you have to do this is valid or do a custom event that runs on the owning client, because if you are, let's see, if I am in the host options, see, those haven't went away, so we want those to go away so they're not being able to be clicked. So in our host, or let's see, in our lobby menu, when we click host options, we want to remove it from the parent. So we will just drag these down, and we will remove this from parent. That way, once we click it, it disappears until we then unclick it, which we will go and set that up too. So whenever we select a map, we are going to create a custom event here. And this will be recreate our lobby widget. Off of this, you create a widget. And we are going to do it is valid here too. We do it is valid, create the widget. The widget is going to be our host or our lobby menu because it destroyed it whenever we clicked on host options, so it's going to have to recreate it. The owning player is our player controller, and we will just add this to the viewport and make sure it's plugged in correctly. Like so. And then our return value is going to go back into the it's going to go back into the, well, it really didn't like that. It's going to go back into our is valid. That way, the reason for creating this, we are going to make sure that this runs on the owning client. Where did, what? Oh, it's over here for some reason. I don't like that. We are going to make sure that this runs on the owning client because we only want it to be recreated for whoever's the host. And then off of these on clicks, whenever you click these, that's whenever it's going to recreate the lobby widget because it removes itself from the parent. So right here we would just run recreate lobby widget, and we'll just plug it in like so. So now if we click host and we click host options, as you see it went away. Our motion blur's a little off, but it went away, and when we click crisis, it comes back for us to start. For us to be able to start the game. And last but not least, we are going to need to make it to where only the host can see the start game and the we're going to need to make it to where only the host can see the, what am I trying to say? Only the host can see the start and the host options button, because obviously we don't want everybody to be able to do that. So for these two buttons right here on our event construct, we are going to, off of this reference that we already created, we just do a if, which is a branch. Off the condition is going to be is server. It's so if they are the server, if they are, then we will set visibility of host options and of start game. We're going to set visibility. You can. Oh, you can. That's amazing. We're going to set visibility to visible, and we will just duplicate this right here, and off of false we will do it that way. So if they are the server, they will see those two buttons. If they are not the server, they will not see those two buttons. So if we try that out, if we host a session and we join on this end, that has not worked. Whoops, that's why. Make sure that is set to hidden if false. Come on now. No clue what that is, but that's hilarious. But as you can see, there is no start or host game button for the client. It actually looks like it's not spawning in a character, so we will just check on this game button to make sure that the lobby is spawning a character. It is not. We'll spawn the third person character. This will allow us to move around. If you don't want to be able to move around in our actual player controller, whenever it creates the widget, we can just set after it creates the widget, we will set show mouse cursor. Oops, off of the player controller. We will set show mouse cursor to true. And we will also set the game to UI only. So set input UI only. That way you're not able to move around and do all that funky stuff while you're trying to set up the host settings. People are messing with you. So now that we have that set up, if you don't want to hook in this widget and focus because the widget's not focusable. So as you can see here, the player spawns in, but you cannot move around. You also have full control only over the widget. So if we select Crisis, start game, it'll put us in server travel. And as you see here, we are. We have both loaded in here. We can both move around. And we are on Crisis because the centerpiece is missing. Another thing you can do is you can set up, well, we probably should go ahead and do that. Before it executes this command, it doesn't actually check to see if there is a map name, so it's just going to start traveling us to nowhere, and it's just going to return errors. So you actually want to, on your player controller, you're going to want a boolean right here, because this is what, we don't want the server to have to check this. So we'll just put a branch in between client start game and travel server, and we'll promote this to a variable, and this will be called can start. And this will be used a lot to check a lot of other things, but this is one of the main things it checks, because obviously if we haven't selected a map, we don't want the game to be trying to start. And then in the actual host options, in the host options widget, after we cast the server info, we are also going to get our player controller. And we are going to cast to our lobby controller and just promote this to a variable, and it's just going to be a reference to our lobby controller. That way we can then drag off of our lobby controller right here. We'll drag this out, and we will get can start. My bad. We will set can start. So we will set can start to true. That way, once any map is selected at all, can start's true, and it'll allow us to push that execute console command on. Because if we try to start the game now, nothing's going to happen, because there is nothing to happen. So we need to go into host options, select our map, and then start the game afterwards. And if we give it a second, as you can see, we have now loaded into Crisis. So that's just a really good check to do if you don't want there to be like a default always loaded map. If you do want there to be a default always loaded map, you just take that away, and you would have the map name set to that default map. Other than that, everything is working as it should. We can work on getting our chat messages up, as well as allowing you to have a little friends list right here to invite your Steam friends to your lobby and then start the game afterwards. And there's also a few more host options we can do, like the max amount of players that can connect and stuff like that, because we will have join via presence, so people can just join you if they see you on like that. Other than that, you all have a good one, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. My Discord server is also in the description, and you can privately message me there, or if you just need help with a different project, I will probably be able to help you with it. Other than that, you all have a good day.